Artest looking, gets it to Bryant. Bryant dribbling, has to put it up with the buzzer. Banks it in! Oh, he banks in the three! And the Lakers win the game!
Good morning. What is happening? It's Wednesday. That means it's time, right? 9 a.m. Central. We are live right here from the Insurance Syndicate headquarters in Austin, Texas. I'm Tony Merwin. That's Joe Campert, the king of trucking groups, the king of Facebook groups. Let me tell you, this dude knows what it's about. What is going on, my friend?
You're looking at it, baby. It's been an amazing start to the week. Had a great day yesterday, great day on Monday, and we are here for winning on Wednesday. Good morning, everybody. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, if you are tuning in from the Insurance Syndicate, make sure and hit the link in the description just so we can get your name up on the show and give you a shout out. If you are tuning in from my personal page, throw me some stars, trying to monetize this thing. And without further ado, y'all, we have an amazing show. I'm very excited to have our guest on. I got to meet her out at Andy Elliott's in December. I've been following her from Facebook for quite a while, but we are definitely excited to have her on. But you guys know, as always, before we get into it, weekly wins. Mr. Merwin, what you got?
Weekly win.
Drop yours in the comment, too.
Weekly win. I don't know if this is a win or not, but CMS dropped the final ruling late last week on what they're going to do to the Medicare industry. And boy, has it stirred some feathers. I would say from a win standpoint, and I hope I'm not wrong because I'm still speculating. I'm not an attorney, but I've dug through this document, all 1,327 pages of it, quite a bit. And I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people are making it out to be. So I'm going to say a weekly win is my interpretation. This is what's happening. Medicare agents are going to lose co-op dollars. Medicare agents are going to lose HRAs, but they're getting a raise. We're going to make more money next year in the form of commission. So, again, I don't think it's as bad as it is. So I'm just going in a weekly win with my interpretation that the Medicare industry moves forward.
Like that.
Agents are still going to thrive.
Right on. Well, that's good. I've definitely been seeing it in the forums. I still do not understand like half of what it is other than people are losing their minds. And there's been a lot of conversation about it. But good for you. Staying positive, right? It is not impossible. And if anything, you guys are going to get a pay bump. So that's pretty cool.
And even if they do somehow wreck the industry, they're only going to wreck one tiny little segment of it. I shouldn't say tiny. It's about half the marketplace, which is Medicare Advantage. It's only about 30 million people. It's an easy pivot for insurance agents. We're just going to go back to the way this whole game started, where we're selling supplementary health products to round out their Medicare coverage. That's how we all got into this business. It's blossomed into this mad morph thing with all these other products. But if they take that little section away from us, no big deal. There's plenty of supplementary products that we can continue to sell and make a great living.
Love that. Love it, dude. Bro, my weekly win, man, I didn't even realize it until, really, I guess it was last night, but it more kind of set in this morning. Today is day 101 of the Extreme Revolution. So talking back to actually how I met our guest in person for the first time, you guys know I went out to Andy Elliott, signed up for that Extreme Revolution, and it was basically we're going for 100 days in a row of 45-minute minimum workout, 20 pages out of a book a day, and then just serious intention on your diet. And so today is 101. Now, I will say that is a win for me because it was very daunting. And then it was like, oh, shit, I didn't even realize I just did the 100 days. But you guys know that we're all about transparency and honesty. So I have to be vulnerable here. I missed 3 days. So I did miss 3 days. I went, it was day 79 and 80. And then I missed on Easter. I'm not going to talk about why I missed 79 or 80. It was we'll leave it at medical, but it was pretty hard to walk. And then I missed day 80 for Easter Sunday. So some of y'all are hearing that. It's like, well, how is that a weekly win? He didn't do the 100 days in a row, right? Which is what we were supposed to commit to, right? For me, it was the win is I didn't even realize it was 100 days. Like I'm here, like I'm getting ready to, I know what I'm doing for weights and stuff when I go home for lunch today. All that gets, and it was the lifestyle shift and the lifestyle change for me where, I mean, it wasn't about the 100 days, y'all. It wasn't about your 75. It was to, I guess, kickstart it. And sometimes we need that as human beings to like, all right, I have this mission, right? But it was more of, man, the 100 days for me was to just change my lifestyle, right? To really take better care of my body, to get in shape, right? To educate myself, not just through everything that we're reading in Facebook groups and podcasts and listening to. It's like, man, let me actually get into a book. And actually, I just got this. It's called the Heroes Quest Journey or Journal, I think is what Mason Vanmeer, shout out to Mason, just got me. So now I'm breaking down like, what is my new quest? So I kind of like the mission behind it. But again, my weekly win is, yeah, I did 97 out of 100 days, but that to me was the lifestyle change, man, and how, well, shoot, this is, I guess, 365 now. Yeah. So was pretty proud of myself for that. I did miss the 3 days, but I have to be honest, and it's okay because I'm living a freaking better life now. So shout out to Andy Elliott for pushing me.
Pretty buff too. I mean,
trying.
I'm just gonna say, I've noticed.
Got to keep up with Merwin and the green juice, y'all. Got to keep up. But anyways, again, thanks guys for tuning in. We appreciate y'all. Happy winning on Wednesday. Hope y'all are having an amazing start to your week, right? It is the peak of the week. You guys know it. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring on our guest.
The Iron Priestess.
The Iron Priestess. Well, you just gave her the shout out, so I got to go ahead and bring her on. But I got to meet her in person, again, back at Andy Elliott's in December, and just her energy and the vibe that she puts off. And really, you guys see it in the description of the show, the hats that she wears and performs at such a high level is freaking exceptional. So I'm very excited to have you on. Thank you for joining us. And without further ado, go ahead and give them just 30,000 foot overview. Who is Kimi? What do you do? And ultimately your weekly win.
This is amazing. Well, 30,000 feet is super high up for me because I am only 5'2". So shout out up there, right? So I guess a quick intro about me. So I'm Kimi Donahue, and I've been in the insurance industry for about 16 years, which is basically the majority of my entire adult life, right? Fell into it like most of us. I'm sure neither of you rolled out of bed in the morning and was like, I'm going to go do insurance, right? I was introduced to it from a friend and started over at State Farm, went to go open up my own captive insurance agency, and of course, eventually independent, and exiting that business, and now doing what I do. And in between all that, if we're going all the way back, I think prior to us getting started and going live, you wanted to kind of see a timeline. Where do you want me to start, I guess, is my question.
We got to hear the weekly win first, though. And then we are, guys, you're talking like the stuff that this chick does is freaking awesome. So we're definitely going to talk about that. But what's a weekly win real quick for you?
Absolutely. Weekly win. Today is actually my daughter's 15th birthday.
Ooh, happy birthday.
Yes. Happy birthday to her. She's still in bed. I'm going to go wake her up after this and take her to school. But just a huge win. That cliche saying about don't blink. It's so true. My goodness. I just can't believe that I have a 15-year-old already.
Yeah. That is crazy. Well, yeah. So, okay. Shout out to happy birthday. I think I saw your post. Her name's Maya. I think is
Mia.
that correct? Mia.
Mm-hmm.
Happy birthday,
she heard
Mia.
you. She would correct you in a heartbeat.
Whoops. My bad. But no, so take us back, right? And y'all, again, read the description. You guys can see just everything that Kimi has accomplished. And I'm sure that probably started even before your 16-year tenure kind of just operating in the industry, but now obviously the other things that you're doing when it comes to acquisitions, when it comes to consulting, the other type of certifications that you have. But take us back and actually let's start here. What was Kimi's first ever job? And then we'll start there.
My first job was actually a part-time position during the summer. During high school, I was only 15 and a half. I think that was the legal age to start working out here in Tucson, Arizona. I basically made art and got paid for it. We did like tile mosaic things. Basically, our job was to make Tucson look prettier. So we did different pieces of art throughout town. And then at the same time, so simultaneously, I took a job at Baskin Robbins, which was amazing because you get to eat the leftovers, by the way. So how I wasn't 1,000 pounds, I have no idea.
That's crazy. I love that. So, yeah. Okay. So let's start here then. So obviously Baskin Robbins, I'm going to call it out specifically. Professional, like, bike ride, like motorcycle rider, like you have other things, like what happened? You're in a band and you freaking sing and jam out. Like what, you got to take us just through the whole thing. How did that even start? I mean, I can hear now, you just said you were an artist. So, okay, I can picture some of that, like where that's coming from. But
Sure.
what led you into all those different endeavors? And ultimately, it's probably what we talk about a lot on the show is that, man, insurance was just the best vehicle or an amazing vehicle for the revenue earning opportunity to be able to funnel into all these other extracurriculars that you were, performing in at a high level. Take us through some of what those extracurriculars were, and just some of the hats that you were wearing and still are wearing, by the way.
Absolutely. So in high school, well, I've always been into motorcycles since I was young, but my parents would never let me ride them. So for a senior project in high school, I actually wrote a paper on how I was going to get my license, how much it was going to cost to get a motorcycle, how I was going to be safe on it. And the paper was so convincing, and I got an A on it, everybody. My parents said, hey, for graduation, we'll buy you a motorcycle with the condition of it's got to be a small one. So I got a Ninja 250.
Hey.
Anyone that knows motorcycles, you go, oh, okay. However, these days, people are racing those and are amazingly fast. So there's some really cool stuff happening with those things. But at the time, I'm like, small bike, whatever. But I was just so thankful that they even supported that. So started riding around town. I'm looking back on it. I'm just so thankful that I'm still here because we did dumb stuff when we were young, going really fast and just, pulling maneuvers that you really shouldn't do on the road. With that, what drew me to the track was seeing friends get hurt. We lost, unfortunately lost some people. Some people are permanently disabled. So I saw that and went, there's got to be a way to still have fun and be essentially safe, right? So got introduced to track day riding. And what got me into racing is naturally I'm competitive. And one woman was following me on the track, pulled me over in the pits and was like, hey, you're kind of quick. You should look at racing. And that was basically how that story started. And I wrote a blog about this a while back, super open about how I got into racing. This at the same time I was starting my insurance career, working as a producer, so sales is the best place to be. I have a story on how I got into that too. And started going to college, and I actually used some of my student loans, everybody, to help me go racing. So let's just say it took me years to pay off my racing. We'll say that. But I was working simultaneously, so I could afford to go to school, used that to start going racing, and of course, paid for it throughout the years. And what eventually drew me into competitive shooting, because you'll see that through my timeline as well, was like I had a really bad crash in 2014. Just pulled a rookie move, grabbed too much front brake, went over the handlebars, and hit my head, got knocked out, the whole shebang bang.
Wow. Is this racing or is this you on the streets being silly?
No, this was on the track, thank goodness. Okay. If it was on the track, I probably have a very different story to tell you.
Right.
Fortunately, was able to walk away from that. But was like, I don't know if I want to do that again. And if I do, it'd be probably wouldn't be as safe. I feel like I started scratching off, my 9 lives like a cat. So was flipping through TV. I think it was a Sportsman channel. And I saw girls shooting 3-gun. And I'm like, what is this? And how do I get into it? Right. So immediately I went to the store. I bought pistol, rifle, shotgun, went to the range and started learning how to shoot competitively. And I did that for several years.
And this is all happening while you're in insurance, correct?
Oh, yes. Yes. All of this is during insurance. So how I got into the sales part. So when I started going to college, I originally wanted to be a high school English teacher because I love writing. I could write all day, every day. Love writing. Not big on reading, which we could touch on that too with the Extreme 100. But found out, teachers unfortunately don't make very much. So I decided to make it part of my plan. I'll go teach and help other people either throughout my life or when I'm semi-retired and want to do it out of the kindness of my heart. But I needed to find a way to make money. And then that was even amplified even more when I got pregnant at the age of 20 which I was like, okay, now I really got to get my life together, and I have responsibilities now. So that's what drew me to sales. Prior to insurance, I actually sold motorcycles, also just helping influence the motorcycle piece. And selling insurance allowed me to have flexibility in my schedule, and you can control what you make. So if you did have a big event or something that you wanted to go buy, it was that much more incentive, that much more fire to go and sell something so that you can go and get that.
Absolutely. You said you fell into insurance, which certainly the majority, I think we can all agree, the majority of insurance agents, quote unquote, fall into insurance. And I'll say fall, really what it means is that we were recruited, right? If you look at the metrics, most agents, other than this weirdo sits next to me, don't wake up and go, man, I want to go sell paper for the rest of my life. This sounds like a great, fun thing to do. Lo and behold, it turns out insurance is actually pretty sexy, but you don't find that out until you get into it.
Correct.
You fell into it. I fell into it. I was also recruited by my warm market, a friend that I trusted. So what were you doing right prior to insurance? Who was this friend that introduced you to insurance, and kind of what did that look like for you that got you in and convinced you that, hey, this is an opportunity for me?
Yes. So my daughter's real dad actually had a friend who was a State Farm agent. So at the time, I was actually selling ticket sales at a car wash. So I was the girl asking for that tire shine upgrade, right? And she said, "Hey, Kimi, here's the property casualty book. Start studying and go into insurance." She was really just kind of a light in my life and I really didn't know her that well, actually. So we'll add that piece. But she gave me the book to start studying, and I told my parents about it. Again, I'm super young at the time. I'm 19 and a half, about 20 years old. And talked to my parents' State Farm agent, who ended up hiring me on as a part-time CSR.
Okay. Were you going to college at that time?
Yes. Yep. I was going to college. I was 6 months pregnant, working at a car wash on the weekends, and then insurance Monday through Friday.
And shooting guns.
Not yet. That didn't come till later.
Not
So at that time, it was motorcycles.
Got it.
Well, not while I was pregnant. Definitely.
I was going to follow up with that, but
parked the motorcycle while I was pregnant, and then when I went to go turn it back on, it didn't work because Ninja 250s are carbureted, and I learned real quick about having to sync carbs, and it just,
So that's something I picked up from you. We talk about it a lot here on the show, and it's the expense versus investment mindset. Something that I really struggled with when we first started Redwood was everything was an expense. You brought up events, which events are ultimately like what changed my life. And getting to the point of like, man, I don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to do it. We're going to get there, man, and get into the right room and all that stuff. And once we finally shifted okay, hey, that's not an expense, it's an investment. And I love what you said. I got that from, well, shoot, if I want to go to this, it's just that much more incentive for me to go sell policies. And I think a lot of agents don't get that response. They're like, oh crap, I'm not going to be able to go. Right. And it's like, oh, hey, no, dude, you can 100% go because sales is the best place to be, to quote you. Where does that mindset come from? Because I already got that from you. And obviously, when I met you at Andy's, you guys had a 2 a.m. freaking show or something or you got done at like 2 or 3 in the morning, slept for 2 hours, and then drove like 2 hours to come train with us at Andy Elliott's for a whole day on Sunday. So obviously, you've got the drive and the motivation. Like, where does that come from? Was there an experience, a learning moment? Do you think you were just born with it? Like, where does that mindset come from?
That is a great question. I probably wouldn't have been able to answer that 2 years ago until I really started diving into self and personal and professional development, right? I really took some time to look back on that and said, what makes Kimi tick, right? Who am I? And throughout my life, I've always been very competitive, and I wondered where that came from. Because both my parents are engineers. I would say my dad's probably pretty competitive. His childhood was full of sports, and he was also an entrepreneur. He owned several engineering firms growing up, built them, sold them, super successful. And I got to watch that as a kid.
Awesome.
What I think really gave me that drive was the want to prove myself, especially as a kid. So 4th grade, I was actually diagnosed with Tourette syndrome. Hard to tell over Zoom, but I do have facial twitches, or they call them tics, with Tourette's. And it's definitely not as bad as an adult. You'll probably see it more when I'm either extra tired or bored or, some really serious emotion, it'll come out a little bit more. But growing up, it was really bad. And I felt like sometimes it slowed me down in certain things, and it definitely made you feel like an outcast,
Mm.
So once I found out what it was, I embraced it, made it part of me. And I think it made me want to prove myself like, well, I can do it too,
Love that.
also growing up with a lot of friends that were boys, and I think seeing them be really competitive also, same thing. I can do it too. My mom said I was, I had been super young, maybe 3 or 4 years old. I'd freaking drowned in the ocean because I thought I could go in the deep end like the guys. So
Always getting after it.
they
Kimmy.
had to go in and save me because I just disappeared into the water. Remember, I'm a short person, so.
Right. Gosh. Okay. So I can do it too. John Wetmore says this all the time, right? Well, hey, if they're doing it, why can't I do it? Right. So I want to talk. Let's pivot here a little bit to what all you're doing now, because I think there's certain certifications. It's like the NLP, I think is what it was.
Mhm.
What are you doing now? So take us through like, hey, here's what I'm doing now, like on a day-to-day, here's the businesses that I'm running, and then we'll kind of dissect from those businesses and go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So prior to what I'm doing now, I was a carrier rep for Openly, home insurance carrier. I'm sure
Mhm.
many of you are familiar with. Big purple logo. My hair was actually purple prior to Openly. And
That worked out well.
I got nervous. I was like, oh, maybe I got to dye my hair. And then I found out that the CTO had a purple and blue mohawk, and I'm like, this is my
Perfect.
tribe. Let's go. So sold my agency in 2022 and took that role with Openly. And I knew this would come up, so I might as well say it live. People, I'm getting a lot of questions of, what happened? Why did you leave? Had nothing to do, no bad things at all. Love Openly. I will bleed purple until the day I'm done, right? But I wanted to be able to go and do my own thing again. Anyone listening that's an entrepreneur or a business owner, it feels good to be able to control, what you make and what, the team that you're building, etc. So I'm doing a few things. I opened up a meal prep company in Tucson, Arizona, with a partner. It's called BizFit Meal Solutions, or BizFit Meals. And we are basically catering healthy meals to people that want to stay on track. And I started that because Extreme 100, right? I
Mhm.
realized, oh, I need to be eating healthy. I need to start ordering meal prep. And, there's a lot of online companies and a lot of companies in Phoenix, but there wasn't much here in Tucson. So I saw a huge need and turned it into a business.
Love
So doing that. Also, since I've been an agency owner and I want to help other people, I do invest in a couple of agencies. So ready to watch those flourish and become amazing. Even, and I'll bring it up. Everyone talks about the hard market. I will say, being a carrier rep, you get to see there's some agencies that are really flourishing even during this time. So it
Mhm.
goes back to well, if they can do it, why can't we? Right. So one of the things I learned in NLP is modeling people. So you go find out who's doing it well and like really well and do what they're doing. And if it's in an industry that maybe you're not very sure of, still there's going to be some systems and things that they do that you can apply to your business, right? Business is business. Obviously, there's some very specific things in the insurance industry that it helps to have experience and a mentor. So that just to follow
When
that up, find someone
question
that's
for
doing
you
it well.
on when you go to invest in an agency, what do you look for? Like say,
People.
hey, I'm somebody that, okay, people. All right, break
Yep.
that down a little bit.
People. So when you're looking for someone to partner with, I'm looking for someone that's hungry and willing to do the whatever it takes mentality. And also looking for people with that same mentality that I have of like, watch, I can do it too. So when I'm looking at business partners, I'm looking at obviously work ethic, someone that doesn't mind showing up to work, whatever the business needs. I think that was probably my biggest pet peeve as an owner operator or as a business partner is people that don't match your
Mm.
speed, and I had to learn that not everyone's going to run the same way as you, otherwise they'd be doing it too.
Right.
But people that have a sense of urgency and that just have that like scrappy, gritty work ethic.
So
You know?
how do you instill, okay, so let's say, because we were, I believe this was last week's show that we were talking about the falling stars, the the middle or the rising stars, and then the superstars, right? Like, and those are basically the people in your office.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes, you know, can you find a superstar or diamond in the rough? Sure, sometimes, right? But I think a lot of the times you have to develop, not necessarily the falling star. I think the falling star is already falling, right? And that's always been something, a detriment or a fault of mine, is that I will care more than they do, and I care for too long. It's like, man, I should have just already let them fall, right? They were already on their way down. I'm trying to bring them up. It's not going to work. But I think you find kind of that rising star, that middle star, right? They're not necessarily a superstar yet, but maybe they are lacking some of that grit, some of that sense of urgency. Coming from obviously what you've learned through, and actually maybe before we get into that question, sorry, real quick, could you break down just what NLP is and like just kind of what those certifications mean, so that we, as we start to kind of break down how we look at people, I think that'll explain a little bit more.
Yeah, NLP in a nutshell it's an acronym for neuro-linguistic programming. And when you say that to people, when it was said to me, I'm like, what the heck is that? I came here to be a better communicator. Well, that's basically what it's about. It's about modeling successful people and how you talk to yourself and how you talk to others.
Wow. I was way off. I thought it meant no limit poker.
Right? Well, it's also apparently NLP is also like a tech acronym as well. So if you want to look it up, it comes up with multiple search results for that.
Neuro-linguistic programming?
Yes. So I was introduced to that. So it was sold to me as you're going to become a better communicator. And I'm like, cool. Anyone in sales can be a better communicator. And I just saw the comments about Mason. I have yet to meet you, Mason. Looking forward to meeting you, fellow master practitioner. So in the real estate industry, especially Keller Williams is a big broker. They really teach NLP to their agents and introduce them to that. So I was like, well, how do we introduce this more to the insurance world? Because I learned so much about people, about myself. And prior to that, there's actually a book that really changed how I show up. And it has nothing to do there's Atomic Habits, right, is one of them, about changing your habits. But the one that really made a big difference for me, it's called With Winning in Mind. I can send you the link after this. It's by Olympic rifle shooter Lanny Basham. And I was actually introduced to this book by a world champion shooter as well in the industry. And it basically teaches you what your self-image is, how you view yourself doing things, and how you can change your confidence, how you show up to stuff. And this helps you in especially sports. So of course, it has a very competition sport focus, but it can help you in your relationships, how you show up, at home, at work. That book, definitely, I recommend it to everybody. And I have 10 copies of it. I make no money on it, by the way. I'm not sponsored by that in any way. It just made such a big difference to me that I give it to people when I see them in need.
Love that. Love that. That's kind of the perfect book title for the show that you're on.
Yeah.
Winning on Wednesday. Okay. So take that back. Now we understand NLP. Take that back to, okay, hey, I've got this rising star, I see the potential basically, but they're not quite there yet. How do you instill or help them develop a sense of urgency or that grit? Or is it like, how would you go about that? Where, hey, man, I see the potential, and the potential in partnering with you, right? I see not only your own personal potential, but then, man, we could be a good partner or a good partnership. How do you instill that in somebody?
That's so great question. When I first started partnering with people or hiring people, I used to think that it wasn't something you could change. I used to think, well, this is just who they are. Either they have it or they don't. Wrong. Since learning NLP, you can actually change your habits. So if it's something that they truly want to change, so here's the key: is if it's something that their subconscious or their identity is like, nope, don't want any part of that, it's not going to happen. But if it's something that they truly want to change, there are different tools that you can use to find the pattern that's making them a certain way. So let's say they're a procrastinator, right? there are different tools you can use to change whatever pattern is making them procrastinate to be a little more motivated, or to be, whatever feeling they want to have next. And that is definitely with those tools, that's what they're focusing on, is the feeling that happens before you do that habit.
Okay. I like that. Last question. I know Tony's got some notes on here. I have a question when it comes to, oh man, how do I word this? I guess it kind of goes back to the producer side of things, but when you're talking about modeling agencies, right? So I'm a property and casualty agency, okay, and I'm trying, man, maybe I'm struggling, and I know we have some people on here that you're right, there is a hard market, but there are still people thriving and flourishing in it. So, what should PNC agents be modeling their agency after? What should their model or their focus be pointed towards right now, at least in your opinion, or what you're seeing in the market? Definitely coming from obviously the corporate carrier side of things, because you're seeing very high level numbers across some, a national scale, down to literally, hey, I'm in the trenches with these agencies. What should people be focusing on in the property and casualty space to, for the lack of a better term, keep their business afloat?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think focusing on sales 101, and this sounds so silly, but hear me out. The last few years have been, I'll say the word easy, have been really easy for PNC, especially in Arizona. So I'm talking specific to Arizona because I don't know what it's like in some other states. I've been licensed in other states, but my experience resides primarily in Arizona. But I would say over the last, several years, it was easy because underwriting was not as hard. Rates were very inexpensive in Arizona.
I loved
and
Arizona.
and the mortgage rates were great. So people are buying, selling, refining, right? So there was a lot of leads in the personal line space. With that, there are still a lot of leads. You just have to be a lot more specific and tactical about it. So I would focus on sales 101, which is going back to knowing who your ideal client is. Because these days, even as agents, you need to be a little more picky because that's what the carriers want as well. And it's going to help you minimize your service work. So finding who's your ideal client and being very specific and open about what you're looking for. The nice thing about even niche people, right? I mean, you talk to even the commercial agents that talk about, micro niching, blah, blah, blah. Excuse me, I shouldn't say blah, 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 because it is absolutely a thing. What I'm saying is you're still going to...
et cetera, et cetera.
Yes, thank you. What I'm saying is you're still going to get auxiliary things even when you market yourself as an expert in a niche.
Yep.
So I know some people get scared to niche down, but it doesn't mean you're going to lose out on other things. You're still going to be seen as an expert overall. So that was my blah, blah, blah piece. Yeah. Forgive me. I know there's a few people that might hear that and go, Kimi, because I definitely subscribe to the niche piece.
Okay. I like that. My 2 cents to add on that too, where I'm seeing a lot of agencies miss the boat too, is it's the sales 101, but I think what comes with that 101 is, hey, it's always cheaper to keep a client than it is to go get a new one. And I see a lot of agents slacking on the service side of things. It's funny. I was just talking with our progressive rep. Our growth is up, right? Even in this hard market. And that's, again, this is including our aggregator side of things. So it's a lot of numbers. So it's kind of hard to grow when we're about 45, 50 million on the books, but we're still growing like crazy. But what's hilarious, and progressive's our biggest book of business, our PIF count, our policy in force count is down, but our growth is up because of the premiums. And it's just, we're really putting a lot of attention on retention, right? Is trying to just keep the client on the books, but then bringing in the right select few. And I think that's where I'm seeing a lot of agents struggle as well, is that they're just kind of having to say no. Hey man, like I know I have the conversation with my guys. There are going to be some situations where this is the best I got, right? And I think that in this kind of time, right, and I don't really foresee it change. Some of it's starting to open back up, and it depends on the state for sure. I'm based here in Texas, so we've probably got a long ride to ride this out. But I'm seeing agents really struggling. Like they'll go to all ins and they waste so much time, and they have all this, like they've said yes so many times, but then they don't actually have a true solution for them, right? And this is where I would say, or encourage somebody to lean on a referral partner. Because there are some resident agents where we used to really win in our business was we didn't have to say no because of where we're physically sitting. We're writing business in over 40 states. Now it's turned into, well, dude, there's a lot of carriers that if you're non-resident, your property line got shut down, right? Or there's more underwriting, whatever it is, because you're not a resident agent. This is where now you can go and find people, and then maybe there's a commission split and something on that. So I love that, because it is, sometimes you just got to get back to the basics.
Yeah,
right?
I love your attention on retention, because again, like you said, one, if you're cross-selling those accounts, everyone knows you have a better chance of keeping those clients, and it gives you an excuse to reach out to them. So when I'm saying sales 101, I'm also thinking about that, good old-fashioned numbers game of outbound calls, not just for new business, but outbound to your current clients. Remind them that they're there, because they're getting hit with all kinds of ads. They might be getting hit up by some other hungry agent that's like, well, let me take care of you. When's the last time your agent has reached out to you?
10 years.
Yeah. And some of them,
anymore. Everybody's shopping. Yep.
Yeah. And if I could give the biggest piece of advice to any salesperson, is answer your phone or call people back. I remember I literally had to put it on my calendar when I was first starting to check your voicemail, because you start finding, people leave messages, and if you're caught up in the daily grind and you didn't return a call, it could be very offensive to your clients if you don't call them back.
Yeah. Details like that matter.
Absolutely.
100%. So I talk to agents about this all the time. Like, oh man, I'm so good at what I do. I'm so great. I offer them the best product. There's no way my client's ever leaving me. And then they forget that there's like 1.5 million other agents out there that are hungry as hell, that have no clients, or they want more. They're calling your client, bro. They are calling them. They are sending them mail. They are emailing them. They're texting. They're finding a way to get in there and whittle into that relationship. And if you're not the one on the phone with them, checking in with them and doing service work, doing that retention, being intentional about paying attention to your retention, you're going to lose the business over time. Like, let your ego go and realize that, hey, I need to stay in touch. Send them a thank you card, follow up. Hey, have you used your policy? Is it working for you? Do you have any problems with it? Is there other things that we can do to position for you to cover you better? So
in your space, you're working with seniors too.
In our space, it's definitely
you want to talk about
very
retention.
serious.
We're talking about retaining. Who is my agent again? It's like the more you're calling them, probably the better. We're like, oh yeah, this is my agent. It's like the 5th agent that's agent of record changed them. Tony's on the Medicare side, so definitely a different space.
Yeah, definitely a different space there. Well, it goes back to, think about your mentality when you were brand new in the industry. And that was my pitch, especially when I was young, because especially on the phone, I still sound young. People ask, how old are you? But when I was new to the industry and in my 20s, that was my selling point to people was, hey, I'm young and hungry. I'm actually going to answer my phone. You're not just a number to me. And maintaining that mentality, regardless of how large your agency is, you can also teach your staff to have that same, mental space about that.
Yeah. A young, hungry agent will go anywhere to get a piece of business. And then once you start having some success and your bank account starts filling up and maybe sales starts getting a little easier for you, there's a large group of agents that tend to get a little lazy and complacent in that. And they're like, it's a little too much effort to go get that sale. It's not that important. I got another one over here coming.
I got renewals coming in.
Yeah.
Right.
So stay away from that. You got into insurance, right, as a CSR.
Yes.
And you eventually became an agent. You eventually built your own book, and then you sold it and exited, and now you're doing this other stuff. When you got in as a CSR, like what were your thought process at that point? I assume it wasn't like, ooh, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get CSR, then I'm gonna become an agent, and then I'm gonna grow an agency, I'm gonna sell it, and I'm gonna go become the Iron Priestess.
Definitely had no idea that I would start singing live. That's for sure. With the CSR stuff, I really was just a sponge, learning about a whole new industry, about all the things that happen on the back end of insurance. I was lucky to be under the wing of a State Farm agent who had been doing it for years, and she built up a pretty large agency. We had a staff maybe size of 4 or 5 people. So you got to see the different roles. So I learned a lot about servicing a client. And I actually think that's what contributes to my success later, is focusing on making sure changes got done the right way, making sure you followed up with them, and even gave them like a confirmation call. This was before automation and, things like that. But I would call them back and let them know, hey, the change got done. And people liked that. It felt good to know that they were validated and you did what you said you were going to do. So that really helped me in what made me good at sales, I believe. Also because it taught me to pay attention to the details in the account. So let's say someone calls in just to, I don't know, change out a car or something, right? It gets you used to looking, oh, we don't have other products with them. I will say anyone that went straight into independent agency that didn't get any captive training, go model a captive agent for a week. Shadow them, because as captive agents, they have to sell on value, and they are pushing cross-selling like crazy because they have to, with that
were you on
same
the State Farm
mentality.
side? Were you State Farm or Allstate, or was it State Farm the whole time?
State Farm as a CSR,
Yep.
and I opened up an AmFam agency.
Oh, you're AmFam.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought I was gonna be a lifer, like a lot of captive agents feel when they get into it, and then you see what's on the independent side, and you're like, I could do a lot more over there.
The writing on the wall.
Yeah.
I have to say, like, I 1,000% attest to what you're saying. I started as a customer. I started as an intern, and then that's why I dropped out of college when I was 19. We got started probably right around the same age. And that's what I started. She's like, hey, I got this customer service spot opening up. So my first 18 months in insurance, I was a CSR. And I always told everybody, man, if you can take the calls of telling people their shit's going up 30%, and they're like, why? And it's like,
Yeah.
well, I'm looking here. You've got all your discounts maxed out. You're already using telematics. It just turns out your neighbors suck. Or, they're having claims and there's a problem with the adjuster, whatever. And when you can communicate, efficiently to people on that side of things, like knowing everything that happens after I push the button gave me so much more confidence on the front end when it's, hey, I know everything that's going to happen once I push this button. And I think today's day and age, you can smell the commission breath coming a mile away, where agents don't really give a shit on the back end. They don't care. Hey, I just need to get this policy through to hit my numbers, to hit a quota, to make some money, whatever you want to call it. But then the experience for the client on the back end, and I know this happens a lot in y'all's space, it's a horrible experience, right? And as fast as you got them, Rebecca Davis always talks about this. So many agents let people come in through the front door, and then before the front door even closes, they're already walking out the back door, right? Because that experience on the customer service side is so rough. I really I attest to that. And my upbringing with Allstate, I come from Allstate world. I was sipping the blue Kool-Aid hard, right? It was like bleed blue, baby. I'm going Allstate lifer, kind of to your point. I really appreciated my upbringing with them. I think they make you very proficient in selling that product. But then you start looking at your close rates and everything, and it's like, man, how am I at the top at the office at 30%? Like, I'm turning away 70% of what hits my desk, not because they're not good clients, they just don't fit in the captive box. But I had to agree. I 100% agree with you. Some of y'all should start in customer service. I think you would probably benefited on the sales side
Or
of things.
serving. I've found a lot of great insurance agents coming from education, so from teaching and from literally serving at restaurants, just because they understand, teachers understand the patience and the importance of educating somebody, right? And the servers, they typically know how to hustle, but they're great at talking to people. That's how they got paid and tipped,
Absolutely. Absolutely. At what point did you realize making an exit and a sale was the right play for you, and why?
Yes. So I brought on a business partner in 2020, and I learned a lot about business partnerships and, some of the questions you should ask prior to making that commitment. And I think that's one of the things that I would love to teach and help people with, going forward, just because we are seeing a lot more mergers, acquisitions, partnerships, even bringing on, key staff and things like that. Just learning how to find out how each other works, how you communicate with each other, how they like to be communicated with, but also what their boundaries are and what your boundaries are. I used to balk at that word boundaries because you hear it a lot, in like relationship counseling and relationship, social media people. But all of those hold true in business, because you want to know, how do I win with you? How do I lose with you? And somehow you meet in the middle and, make compromises. Well, you find out what is negotiable and what's not between the two. And that was one of the things that I did fail to do with my business partner in 2020. So fast forward a couple years in, we are growing. So there's definitely, there's a lot of good things out of this. So I want to focus on the positive really quick. We grew. Some of the value they brought were systems and models that I did not have yet. Because I came from being, a captive agency owner where you have one product, and you are focused and laser focused, independent. You've got all kinds of things going on, especially as you're bringing on more staff. Like, how do we get them trained? How do we do this? So my business partner was a large real estate brokerage here in town. So they had a team of 20 plus people. So they understood how to recruit, how to train. And I got to learn a lot from that. However, with me being the expert in the, insurance field and understanding there's definitely some nuances, right, in our industry that are very particular to that, we just didn't see eye to eye on some things, and ultimately decided, hey, this partnership isn't working. How do we split this up? And we just at the time realized it would make sense to sell. And we were really blessed that a couple of our best producers on the team, who are also friends of mine, stepped up and wanted to buy it. And
awesome.
it great transition. They knew the clients, they knew the system. I stayed to coach them and still available to help them because I want to see them win. And that's ultimately what led to that, was just a business partnership that just didn't work out. And we made that decision because we said we still want to be friends at the end of the day. Let's get out of it now before it becomes a resentment thing,
Yeah.
So you completely, for the most part, exited insurance?
So no, actually, now what I'm doing is coaching and consulting with Premier Strategy Box and Patty.
Okay.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. Shout out Cody. That's just freaking sick.
Yes. So actually, Cody's the one that introduced me to it. He said, Kimmy, you'd be perfect for this. And just, based on everything else that I am doing, it allows me to teach the stuff that I've done and are either currently doing, whether it's, building a business, learning about the different things about communication with NLP tools, building other insurance agencies, coaching them simultaneously. It just made sense. And we are super excited to start building out some more training. Some of the things that I'm currently working on specifically are agency culture, talking about M&As, mergers and acquisitions, how to find your ideal business partner, some things like that.
That's awesome. Hey, shout out to Patty too, y'all. So if you want to reach out to Cody or Kimmy, they are a preferred vendor of the syndicate. We've got a link there. Cody's dropped it in the group quite a bit, but if you guys look it up, Patty, Premier Strategy Box, correct? That's the full name.
We actually have a link for you. I can send it to you. Or post it in the comments
group.
Afterwards.
If you guys search Patty, you should be able to find it. But that's awesome. Okay, so we have to wrap the show up with this because we haven't even talked about it too much. But anybody that follows you on Facebook knows you're a freaking badass rocker chick too. How did we get into that? Explain that story. Explain that passion. Obviously, it's got to be a crazy passion of yours because you're so busy. You got a 15-year-old kid, right? But then at night, you're just freaking slaying it on the stage and jamming out on the guitar. Like, explain some of that. What's that passion? And really just tell people what you do, like what it's about.
Well, first, I love being on stage and I love music. So loved music ever since I was little. Kind of backstory around that is my mom played piano for years. So when I wanted to start getting into different instruments, I wanted to play the flute in 4th grade. So this is before guitar. And my mom said, you're not playing anything until you learn how to play piano and read music. Well, I'll tell you what, I learned how to do half of that. I learned how to play the piano. And there was one day where the piano teacher turned the page and realized I wasn't really reading it. I was just playing by ear. And I got in big trouble over that. I wish I would have slowed down and remembered how to read music. So
yeah, it's like reading tab. I used to play guitar.
About the piano is it's basically the whole chromatic scale right there laid out for you. So, but keep going. Sorry.
And I loved it. Yeah, I did it because I wanted to do something else so bad. So going back to that, mentality of doing whatever it takes and wanting to prove yourself probably came from some of that as well. As my mom did a really good job of the reward system of, hey, get this done and we can do XYZ. So got into guitar and started playing guitar. I was probably 12 and went from, listening to Backstreet Boys and the Spice Girls to Metallica, Pantera, Megadeth, all the, old rock that has now become popular again, which is super cool. And I just sat in my room all summer and just started learning guitar. My mom bought me some tab books specifically Metallica ones. And so I learned how to play a bunch of Metallica on guitar, which is why it's a majority what I play on guitar. Anywho, through high school, I thought I wanted to be in a band. I'm going to make a band. I'm going to be the guitarist. And I never thought that I would be singing rock because I just didn't think that my voice could do that, especially, you know, when I was young and had extra high squeaky voice. And fast forward through all my young adult years, didn't do any kind of performing as far as music, and had musicians in my life, you know, throughout, but just never really thought of myself as a singer that would perform live. And then when I had my agency, my right-hand person, Jesse, was a country music singer and in a Tejano band, and he would bring his guitar to work and we just kind of jam, and I'd start singing and harmonizing with him, and eventually it turned into me singing and him just playing guitar. We started making videos and putting it on Facebook. And that was just for fun. You know, I didn't get paid. I didn't perform live. It was just on Facebook Live, I guess. And one of the guitarists for an AC/DC tribute band found me on Facebook, said, hey, our singer's out of town. We're putting together this event to have all girls covering AC/DC. I'm like, that is super cool. So I got invited to sing a couple AC/DC songs with some other gals, and all of them were amazing. And they were all like, you know, super rocker girls and had these amazing voices. And I'm like, oh, I want to do this so bad. And from that, I got noticed by some other bands, started an acoustic duo. And fast forward to now, I was like, I want to create something that I really enjoy. And I really liked the tribute aspect. So we started the band Iron Priestess. We're a tribute to Iron Maiden and Judas Priest. So hence the names together. And we just started booking gigs. And I get this question asked a lot, especially in the music scene here in Tucson, is, Kimi, how do you get gigs? How are you putting these bands together? Because I'm involved in some other projects as well. And I think I attribute it to my background in sales and building teams. I just like building things, you know? So I put together this band, and I'm literally making outbound calls to venues to book gigs. They don't just come to you.
No, they don't. And
there's another gentleman here in town. His name is Andy. He's the drummer for The Dirt, tribute band to, you know, 80s rock, Motley Crue, all the fun stuff. And he's a real estate agent, and he also helped me with that, just validated that, you know, he literally blocks off time on his calendar too to make outbound calls to venues. So we'll check in with each other and say, you know, how many did you get today? Or, hey, have you reached out to so-and-so? So it just helps to have a accountability, a partner around that too.
Good.
Absolutely.
Question for you real quick. You said you didn't see yourself like that, being front, center, and on the stage. Why is that? I don't pick that up from you. So I guess what was the holdup, or what was that mental block of like, oh, I'm not up there? Or
that's a great question. Probably we might run out of time, so I'll try to make it quick. I surrounded myself with the wrong people. You know, I just was in toxic environments, or, you know, places that just didn't allow me to flourish. And once I was able to get out of that, then that just changed everything, you know. As a kid, I was definitely front and center. I liked being in the spotlight. I was in several, you know, musicals and plays and dances and things like that when I was younger. And then fast forward, you know, through my young adult years, just didn't surround myself with people that lift you up, you know. And I will say that is one of the things that I preach to my friends, to my team, to peers, is surround yourself with people that are going to lift you up, that you can go to when you're, oh gosh, I'm getting emotional about this just because it's such a big thing. If you surround yourself with people that make you better, that you can be yourself around, that just changes your life. You know, that you don't feel like you have to put on an act. People that you can look up to, people that you can model. You know, that's why I love going to these you know, events and conferences that, you know, like I met you, Joe, is they just give you a fresh perspective. You know, I know a lot of these things can be looked at as kind of rah-rah conferences, you know, but I'll tell you what, if you have even just one takeaway that you can go and implement, or it changes your life, then it is 1,000% worth it. Go show up to those with the intention of getting at least one golden nugget.
Yeah. Yep. Even if it's not from stage, I mean, a lot of times the best value is in the lobby, talking to other people that are in your situation, that are succeeding ahead of your situation or maybe behind you, and you're lifting them up. All the best information I've got from conferences, and I've been to plenty of them. I went to like 28 of them last year.
Oh my gosh.
Has always been what I've gotten in the lobby, with getting in someone's face, talking to them. Maybe you got to feed them a couple of scotches to get them loose and start talking to them a little bit more, and they start spilling the secret sauce of the beans. But that's where I've always got the best value at any conference, has been finding a relationship in the lobby, in the audience, that I can connect with, collaborate with, learn from, whatever it might. It's how I met this dude. It's how I've met so many other people that I now surround myself with versus who I used to surround myself with before. And you said that perfectly. I firmly believe that the relationships that you have in your life can either be the heaviest things in your life, or they can be like Red Bull and they can give you wings. Right?
I love that.
When you were in that spot and you had to realize that there are people that I'm surrounding myself with that I should not be surrounding myself with, how did you have to have that conversation with some of those people? Did you just quit returning their calls? Did you block them on Facebook? Or, what did that look like in order to step away from some of those relationships and put yourself in front of the right people? Like, were there some hard conversations that had to be had with some of those people? Or did you just like, no, I just don't need to be in that scene anymore. Let me just go play over in this swimming pool now?
I have one sentence to answer that. I kicked him out.
Fair enough.
Yep.
But yeah. Changed everything.
You said one of my favorite words earlier, and it's tribe, right? And it takes a tribe, not only in our personal lives, but also in business. And that's something I preach on in my House of Dreams, is that you are the company you keep. And everybody always says, oh, I'll never do it. Oh, yes, you will. If you stay around, what is it? That's Tony's saying, because that wasn't in my generation, but you stick around the barbershop long enough, you're going to get a haircut.
Yeah.
We didn't ever say that, but apparently I like the saying. So
I like that too.
Yeah.
I picked one. I was watching the Bob Marley movie last night. And in the movie, there's a scene where she is talking to him. His wife is talking to him. And she says, if you swim in pollution, you're going to get polluted, man. And I was like, yeah, no shit. That's pretty true. So same thing that we're like, if you hang out in toxic environments, you're going to become toxic. Pretty simple.
Yeah. And sometimes you don't realize it.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes you don't realize, because you get so comfortable in that space. And this is just like, yeah, these are my pals. This is how it goes. But it takes some time to pull your head out of your ass, so to speak, zoom out a little bit your situation and realize, like, wait a second, this is not what I want for me. And until you take the moment to do that inventory and step out and kind of look at it from a 30,000-foot view of yourself, you won't realize that.
Exactly.
You'll just get stuck in that comfort space. But couple of other quick questions. Number one, like, how much sleep do you get at night?
It's actually a really good question. I actually want to know this.
It depends on the evening. I'm definitely someone that needs to operate on a good amount of sleep. 6 to 8 hours maybe is probably ideal for Kimi. But there are definitely nights where, so I'm more creative at night. I might have a good idea and run to the computer and go, oh, I need to write about this, or, oh, I need to make this piece of content, or, whatever it might be. So I might be up late doing that. And then with the music stuff, you're up late like crazy. So shout out to the rock stars and the people that tour, because my goodness, just doing that locally is quite draining. Even though it gives you energy to be on stage, the stuff in between is super, it runs you down for sure. And also just being involved with multiple projects, it just takes up, a lot of space in your brain. And there's some nights I don't get very much sleep for sure. So.
Understood. What? And then my last question, and we'll exit this, because I know we got to respect your time. You got stuff to do, obviously. You probably got a million of them to do. But what's something you haven't done yet that is absolutely on your agenda? This is something I'm going to do. I'm just not there yet, and I'm working towards it.
Being a keynote speaker.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
You haven't done that? I'm kind of surprised you haven't done that.
No, I have not done that. For the longest time, I had a limiting belief that I wasn't good at speaking, because I loved writing, and I knew that I can craft my thoughts so much better on paper than I can through my mouth, but I am working on that. So stay tuned.
Do you have the message ready?
I have a lot of messages. I think that's been the ultimate struggle and blessing for me, is because I have so many different threads that I can pull on, because I like doing so many different things. Is I'd like to drill it down to at least 1 or 2 messages, and I believe it's going to be about authenticity and just being kind to people. I think if I can leave any message behind, before I leave this earth, is just be nice. Literally, it costs nothing to not be a butthead to people,
Right. Yep.
Very true. Well said.
Well, you're
Awesome.
talking, I was going to say, keynote, what are you doing in July? We could probably make some calls and make that
Let's
happen.
do it.
If you want, we can make that happen.
So here's the cool thing. I work really well under pressure. If someone gives me a due date, I'll make it happen. I think that
3
goes
months.
back to the watch. If they can do it, I can do it. So yeah, if I have a due date, I don't know what I'll talk about yet, but we'll figure it out.
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
I love that.
Well, this has been a super pleasure, man. I really appreciate you coming on. It's been fun. It's been enjoyable, and it's definitely been enlightening. So thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. This was super fun. Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely, man. And thank all you guys for tuning in. We certainly appreciate you. We're here every Wednesday with guests just like this, So tune in. Look for us on YouTube. Look for us on not just Facebook, which is where you're watching us, but Instagram, TikTok. We're everywhere. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, come on, man. Go push the button already. It's that easy. But
do it.
Again, it's the peak of the week.
It's the peak.
It ain't over yet. Put the hammer down, and we'll see you next time, 9 a.m. live, Winning on Wednesday.
And you can do it too, y'all. You can do it too. Appreciate you, Kimmy. Thanks, everybody. Have an amazing week. Catch y'all later.